It is Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Welcome to the 101st episode of Wizard Wednesday. Channeling in from the Quantum Downs, this is your cult leader, Elf. And joining me is... Where's my co-hosts?
Well, I was going to say it, but I always let Dota go first, so I'm just going to wait right here. Dota!
What's up? Sorry, I had to reconnect. It's Dota. Hello.
Oh, man.
And Bear!
There.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, take the
guys.
wind out of your sails right out of the gate.
It's all right. I'm used to it.
Oh, shit.
All right, we have a massive show today. There's so many things going on. I don't know if we're gonna have time for it, but
Too many things.
Too many things. And you know what? I'm just gonna start off with a real blunt question for you, Dota. I'm just gonna ask you flat out in public in front of everyone here, Dota, and I hope you have an answer for this.
Oh, boy.
I'm scared.
Are you secretly working for Avalanche?
Oh man.
Oh,
It's like a Michael Scott, like that episode where he has to work at a call center and he doesn't want anybody to see him. Anybody? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you explain, Elf, Dota, why don't you explain what's going on if some people don't know?
I don't understand why the AVAX intern looks exactly like me. It's not exactly like a traditional or very common look. But
Says you.
There's a family resemblance there. I mean, I can see it.
Well, I've seen that you've been commenting on their posts. Have they replied with what's have they replied at all?
Really, what I've been trying to do is to get in touch with the artist, which they won't let me talk to them because I want them to produce a bunch of Dota memes. But instead, I have been asking Castamere to create some Dota memes, and man, he has some bangers. They are doing such a great job. So if you don't know, Castamere has done a lot of memes with a little Nas. And we needed the Dota memes.
So you went around Avalanche, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You better watch out for a takedown. You're going to have a takedown war.
My own artist who's better. Yeah.
Well, Dota, here's the thing is you don't really hold much weight because you don't even own Dota anymore, right?
That's a good point.
Sorry, I had to do that. I love you, though.
No, it's funny. When I first saw these, people were sharing them in the Secret Tower, I thought that Castamere had just recreated it. It kind of looks like something he would do. And then I saw it on the Avalanche account, and I was just like, what the hell is going on?
I don't know. Seems like they like the Dota.
But it is interesting. There's another thing at play here, which is just something that I've sort of thought about a lot for decades, and you see it happening at times where there really is only so many character designs out there. There's only so many designs for any given form factor. Did you know that there's a literal Mickey Mouse in an early Renaissance painting?
No, I'd like to see
Wait,
it.
what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it looks exactly like Mickey Mouse, and it's in an old fresco, truly dated to the early Renaissance or the medieval times. And it looks exactly like Mickey Mouse. But
so you're saying Walt Disney's just copy pasta?
Yeah. No, but there's examples of this all throughout art history.
Yeah, I think I found it.
It's totally possible that whoever drew this Avalanche intern just did it totally thinking it was totally original. But it's also possible they just totally stole your identity. So who knows? But yeah, I don't know if it's really weird quantum synchronicity. And Dota, the image you just shared is not the image that I was talking about. Not even close. Okay, we will dig into that further and report back what we find. Just some other quick updates is I just wanted to let people know that I am currently in Denver right now. I'm donating another piece to the MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. Christie's is auctioning it. It's an original pixelated piece of artwork, but it does feature the Grim Reaper.
It's a
So yeah,
great piece, man. Congrats. Though your last piece, if I'm not mistaken, it was basically a year ago at FTNYC, which I think we can talk about the like 1 year anniversary of that really great party that we threw. But that was the same time you did another maps auction, and I think you were like your piece came in second behind Beeple. Am I
yeah.
mistaken?
No, I think that was true. Truly a momentous event. That was the Quantum Ouroboros.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Um,
And I still remember when you posted that picture of the piece in Times Square on like the big screen. Maps bought that out, and it was just like I just remember all of us being so proud of you. That was so cool.
it was one of the most magical moments, and not just for me, but I love that like it was connected to the cult, especially with I mean the Quantum Ouroboros was the perfect figure to display in Times Square. Just so much meaning and overlap with that event. But yeah, there's a similar event happening right now in Denver, which is where I'm at now. So yeah, anybody out there who wants to bid on this piece, I think the opening is tomorrow night.
Have they
Not
revealed it yet?
it's on the website.
Oh, amazing.
It's
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
It's a very cool piece.
Thanks, guys.
And don't do
But yeah,
drugs. Say no
okay.
to drugs. Say no to drugs.
This is a psychedelic event, Bear. I don't know if I have a choice.
Say no to drugs. Wait, is it a drug if it's legal? Yeah, it still is. Okay, yeah, I'm just checking.
Yeah. Um, okay. Another thing I wanted to touch on is just we dropped a bunch of Athenaeum items last week during the 100th episode. Um, in that episode, we talked about the Book of Voynich, the Kobold doll, the Ouroboros card, and the Thunderberg egg and the bear paw. But then we dropped some additional surprise items, which was the film camera, the chronovisor, the Black Sands oil can, the magical whoopee cushion, and the shadow crystal. Bear, of all of those things, which one of them do you feel the most affinity to? And you can't say the bear
Yeah.
paw.
Which one did you feel like you came up with?
Oh, well, I mean, I wish we could have people come up and guess because I'm pretty sure everybody would get the answer correct. Yeah. So what? I threw out whoopee cushion, and Elf took the bait, and now here we are.
Yeah, he
So
won.
there's faux farts in the Runiverse now.
Magical so far.
Magical faux farts. Oh my god, I love saying that faux farts.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue. It rolls off the tongue and out the. Uh, anyway, um, but no, seriously though, I loved seeing all the activity in the Secret Tower just around the drop. Everybody just seemed really positive and excited, throwing out fun ideas of what they were going to do with the items, and that's just one of my favorite things about this project is just when we do these big events and the community reacts. I always love seeing the reaction.
I love Elf throwing in my really stupid ideas into collections on the blockchain that will be remembered forever. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was a hell of an idea. I loved it. There is definitely comedy and humor in the universe.
Yeah, and I think that the Athenium items, we have lots of ideas for how we'll use them in the future. I think we are constantly throwing around different plans and ideas for being able to actually use those tokens, and we've already seen some community projects. Black Sands themselves, right? They received sort of, let's say, honorary token because they've been using it within their project, and I think we'll see more of that.
Yep. Okay, and then just another quick 3D update. I know we say this all the time, and y'all are probably sick of it, but I'm just going to say it again because it's true. the 3D is looking so freaking awesome. The site is in progress. The finish line is in sight, and damn it, it looks good. It just looks so good.
Yeah. I remember when, I mean, I don't know if you guys even know this, but like every other Wizard Wednesday, I'm like leaking every freaking wizard in sales just to like keep people at bay. So people have been seeing it, but I will say you guys have really dialed in the Toon Shader. I think Jitsi tweeted last week. He was like, "We have the best 3D. Listen, it's not a competition, but we are winning in 3D." So.
Yeah, and there's just so many little details they're just like such nice little touches that personalize every character. These are more than just like 3D assets. Like these are full characters with identities, and you look through all the character models, and I think that you really get that sense. They're not just raw assets; they're fully developed characters. And that's just one thing that I love. That's just sort of really coming through.
One of the things I should point out, there's a lot of new folks here today on Wizard Wednesday. Hello, new folks. I would say that like when you listen to Wizard Wednesday, half of it is us talking. Half of it, or let's say a quarter of it, is the pinned tweets. I just pinned a tweet which has a beginner's guide and a few links, and then the other quarter of it all happens on our Discord. So yeah, get in our Discord if you want to kind of participate in the rest of the conversation, see some of the images that we're sharing. So it's the invite is actually just discord.gg/Forgotten Runes. Come on in.
Do it.
Yep.
Or you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's true. Half of Wizard Wednesday happens in the Discord as we're talking live. Okay, so we have a few cult questions today. I'm going to start off with a question from Bridge. And Bridge is asking for a differentiation between these terms. So the terms are meta lore, canon lore, and IRL lore. So yeah, this is a fun question. I'll just briefly describe each. The meta lore, that refers largely to just generalized information about the world. This can include like the dominant symbols and themes and motifs and concepts that define the universe. Examples of meta lore in the universe are like sort of the conflict between magic and technology, the geopolitics and culture that define each of the color cults, and just generalized information about the locations. Also, the singularity narrative. All of that sort of plays into the meta lore. Canon lore refers to the so-called official lore. But of course, the tricky thing here is that there can be different versions of official. So if you look at the Star Wars sort of canon, for example, they have like the film canon, the comic book canon. They have a whole canon defined by the novels. And the fan base generally accepts all of these as separate but equal lore canons. And of course, these different lore canons, they have large areas where they overlap, but then they also have big differentiations. And I think Forgotten Runes will have this same sort of dynamic where there's going to be lore that's really more associated with the game. There's lore from the comic, lore from the book of lore, and yeah, they will all overlap, but they will also have sort of different lore threads among them. And then the third one is the IRL lore, and that's basically lore that we observe in the real world. And so this is like history or urban legends, folklore, culture, etc. And this type of lore, it often overlaps very much with the other types of lore, and it causes us to ask, does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? That's the way I would define these three terms. Dota, here's a question for you. Zenaris is asking, in regards to the Athenaeum collection. So you've got all these items in the Athenaeum. Is the supply capped for each item? So, for example, Goblin Flakes. Will we ever make new Goblin Flakes tokens?
No. So the supply, to answer your question, the supply for all tokens that we have issued is fixed. So, for example, we're not going to release any more whoopee cushions. We're not going to release any Black Sands, any more Black Sands oil cans, and so on. But we will probably add to the collection. In fact, we will almost certainly add to the collection. And so I think that you can think of the collection as sort of the like storytelling items collection of the Runiverse, and yeah, we'll be adding to it for a long time, and putting some like functionality within those tokens as well. At the same time, we're preserving kind of the supply metrics for all existing tokens. We won't be issuing any new ones.
Yeah. We won't inflate the supply of existing tokens, but we will add new tokens.
Yep.
Okay, and then Pedro is asking. This is a really fun question, actually. So he's wondering about the process for selecting wizards and warriors when we are creating these larger media expressions like the comic, the show, the video game, etc. How do we choose what characters to feature in these pieces of media? Because there's a lot of great options. There's so much lore to pull from. So yeah, this is a great question, Pedro. And we've talked about this a lot in the past, but it's always good to go over it again. There's a bunch of different ways to think about this. So like with the comic, for example, I told Joe, our writer, I said, just read through the book of lore and pull out anything that you find interesting. You're the creator of the comic series. You're the writer. It's really within your artistic purview to just pick and choose what you want to use. Which means the short answer is I'm just leaving it to like the lead creators of each of these projects. There are other wrinkles to this, which is now that we have the Loracle. The Loracle is going to be a really great tool for these outside creators to use to use lore from the Book of Lore in the Wikipedia. Which is just a great incentive for you to write in the Book of Lore because the Loracle is trained on that. That said, and I'm not going to dive too much into this, but the sort of downside of the comic and the show and these other things is these are media formats that take a long time to develop, and so there's this gap between writing something in the Book of Lore and then just waiting a really long time before you see it expressed in a book or a show. And so we at Magic Machine have been wondering, is there another medium to iterate much faster? And the shorter answer is yes, there is. And so I don't know. I don't know if Dota, you want to expand on that. But I guess all I'm saying is that we are definitely playing with an idea of a media expression that is going to be just much quicker for you to see the results of your lore in a really nice expression that you can have fun with.
Yeah, I think that like part of the important part of when you have monetizable IP. Okay, so rolling back for a second. Everyone who owns a Forgotten Runes character token owns a commercial right to the IP within that character. The goal and the idea of the project is that we're going to build a brand, a universe, the Runiverse, that is competitive with scale and household name with, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Wheel of Time. And that instead of creating artwork for these IPs where everything is owned by a single entity, the holders and the people, the creatives who come together and create the artwork are able to benefit from it financially. That's really the goal of what we're doing here, is trying to capture this idea of these eternal archetypes and the creative spirit in a way that's financially sustainable. And well, one of the biggest ways we're doing that are the comic book and the show, but those take forever. And so another idea is like, well, what good are your IP? What good are your IP commercial rights if there's nothing that anyone wants to buy with them, right? And so, yeah, we're definitely exploring different products that we could sort of roll out, or different ideas for things that we could roll out on like a quicker basis, where we sort of amplify other people's lore. I've been doing some experiments I don't mind talking about. I This morning I posted a short tweet storm of a few images that I've been like working on that actually comes from the lore of Sorcerer Zane of Atlantis. I don't actually know who the holder is, but I was reading through the Book of Lore and looking for kind of lore that talked about the Illuminatus and the Illuminatus heads, as well as sort of in this case the wizard actually has he's not an Illumis head himself, but his lore is about kind of joining the Illuminated. Um, and so I think that there's a lot of interesting ideas that we can explore for products, and I guess I'll leave it at that. Like let's get a little bit further in terms of shipping before we make too many promises about the specifics. But really, the idea is that we are going to build systems so that people can easily monetize their characters.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's, you think about all the different media expressions of a franchise, and comics and TV shows and films are not the only ways those manifest. There's a few other really fun ones that we haven't explored yet, but we really
that are also very familiar, but Web3 sort of gives a new angle to it. It's going to be cool.
Yep.
I just tweeted out and pinned a tweet which has a link to your maps auction.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know why Christie's always underestimates your final bidding price. They estimate the final bidding price here to be 8 ETH, which I think is vastly underpricing kind of what we saw last time. But there it is.
There it is. So yeah, got it. Yeah, I just want to say like this piece that I did. It's based on one of my favorite Gustave Doré etchings. And to me, there's just really something fun about sort of a modern deconstructionist take over these old prints by artists of the Romantic movement. But I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that more in a future Wizard Wednesday. Okay. You know what? God, we're almost halfway through the show. I think that we should talk about the sort of.
Don't say it. Don't say it. They don't exist, do they?
Oh yeah. Wait. What am I even talking about? I totally forgot. That's it. Show's over. Later, guys. No, I'm gonna say it. There is a shadow that has been encroaching on the project. We've briefly hinted at it before, but this shadow is becoming more and more clear. So yeah, I think it's time to talk about it. Before I go into sort of the whole lore angle, Dota, do you want to sort of talk about? Well,
I'd rather talk about the lore first.
Yeah, okay. let's do lore first and then we can back into how it happened.
Okay, sure. Yep. Okay, so let's see. How do I want to approach this? Okay, in the past, we've talked about this archetype of secret cabals, these shadow groups who sit behind the scenes in the darkness, controlling major world events to their benefit. You've got things like secret banking syndicates, ancient and powerful families. You've got groups like the Bilderbergs and the Freemasons and the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, the Knights Templar. Speaking of IRL lore, these are some examples of that. But then in the Runiverse, we also have groups like this. We've got the Illuminatus heads. We've got the Black Goats. We've got the Council of 13. We've got the Red Capes. We've got the Black Dragon Society. We've got the Red Hat Syndicate. We've got the Sevenths. I've even heard rumors that the Kobold Horde is far more clever and powerful than they let on. Maybe Jitsi could tell us more about that. But whatever you want to say about these groups, the lore surrounding them is quite compelling. In the IRL world and in the Runiverse, what I'm fascinated by is how this meme, this archetype, is able to so powerfully capture the imaginations of so many people. This meme it's irresistible. And what's particularly fascinating about this meme is that it doesn't really spread by the veracity of its claims. It's the truth is not as important as how sensational it is. And to me, that tells you something about human psychology, which is that we generally find information compelling not because of its empirical truth, but because of how much it entertains us or how much it appeals to our emotions. Um, and I think most of this sort of secret society archetype falls into this category. And so, like most mythologies, there are grains of truth to them. And when you sift through those grains, you find legendary pieces of information that really change the world. One such legendary piece of lore is that of Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, the crypto that started it all. Um, it's weird because when you think about all the technological revolutions that humanity has ignited, we're usually able to point to a specific historical figure to whom we can give credit. But with crypto, true to its name, the creator figure is shrouded in mystery. We don't know who Satoshi is. They're truly this wizard in the shadow, a sort of black hat hacker, an anonymous mastermind set to disrupt the world order. And this figure and his creation is often demonized by the status quo, as if he's some cult leader taking these hapless sheep to hell. Is it some evil goat intoxicating his followers to dance naked in the woods? At least that's the narrative that competing elite syndicates, or the old guard, wants to promote. The counter narrative to this is that this figure, this Satoshi Nakamoto, is a type of messiah, a savior who breaks the shackles and leads his children to the promised land. And so we ask, who are the Shadow Hats? Which side of this narrative do they fall on? Does that answer depend on if you're in the old guard or the avant garde? Maybe it matters if you yourself are in one of these other secret societies, like the Red Hat Syndicate or the Council of 13. And and when we talk about the colored factions, as we have many times in the past, we never mention the Black Hats. As I think about this blackout, it actually makes me wonder about one other secret order, the White Hats. As ask the Loracle, consult the Wikipedia. These mysterious white hats are the ostensible polar opposite of the black hats. They hide in their tower, not revealing their power levels, not involving themselves in the geopolitics of all the other color cults. But why? And why is this? What is this obsession that the white hats have with order? What is the relationship between black and white? Can the shadow exist without the light? And so I think we can say a few things about the black hats for sure, or the shadow hats as they're known. I think we know that they at least have a very strong affinity for the quantum shadow. And if anyone knows anything about the quantum shadow, it's them. And I believe that this association with the shadow will become more clear in time. And so that's sort of the starting point for the lore around these shadow hats. There's only 10 of them. But Dota, you started this shadow hat Twitter account, what, like 2 days ago now?
Yep.
Sort of tell us about what the machinations you're up to.
Yeah. So, all right, let's roll back a little bit with the Shadow Hats. So, the Shadow Hats came out of, I would say, my early obsession with ordinals. So, in February of this year, um, Rod dropped ordinals, and I think in typical fashion, a lot of crypto Twitter sort of ignored it. Right, the Bitcoin maxis hated ordinals because it was sort of polluting their perfect chain. The Ethereum maxis hated ordinals because they were very slow, the fees were too high. It felt clunky to put NFTs on Bitcoin. I, on the other hand, was really obsessed with them. I thought it was like incredible, absolutely incredible. And I immediately saw the potential for putting effectively NFTs on Bitcoin. And so we'd been working a bit to like figure out how to inscribe them, figuring out how to get just playing around with it. And I think that was one of the key things that this was born out of, is just this like intuition to tinker, right? It's this like adventurer's frontier. This was something new. There was no marketplace, there was no sales, there was no like there was nothing that was like economic really about it. It was just like, this is a cool new technology. And if you go back and look at my tweets, you'll see how I talk about how it felt like deploying my first smart contract. And in fact, in some ways, actually deploying an NFT on ordinals, deploying an ordinal is actually easier than deploying an NFT on Ethereum. So that was where it started, was just like being so fascinated by it. And then you and I have a really good relationship, especially when it comes time to work under pressure. So, you and I have worked together, gosh, I don't know, 14 years now. And when the ordinals were, I don't know exactly what number they were, let's say like 400 or 500. I reached out to you one night and I was like, we need to have something to inscribe. And we had these ideas around shadow hats kind of rattling around. You put together the artwork. In fact, at that time, I actually hadn't had my node fully synced. So if you know, with ordinals, you have to have a Bitcoin full node, or you did in that time. And we actually got Droplister to inscribe the shadow hats for us. So Dan, who also has a number of sets of like early sub 1K ordinals. So he has one called like it's called like bitter pills, for example, and it's these like tough pills to swallow. So we got them inscribed and just sort of like held on to them. People were very interested in them. People wanted to kind of acquire them, and I think basically with this process, we will sell some of them, but I don't think even with this upcoming drop, we will sell them all. So, do you want to add anything to that history, and before I talk about like what's coming next?
No, continue.
Yeah. Well, so I think so. We kind of like see that we're ready to like let people acquire some of the shadow hats, and I think we developed some of the basic lore around the shadow hats, the meaning behind them, which was always part of kind of the lore around them from day one. We'll be revealing more of the lore, more of the dynamics around the shadow hats as we go. But I think another thing that we'll realize is that the shadow hats are not the only shadow beings, right? So when you hear that there are only 10 of these ordinals inscribed under 1K, one thing that you should know is that there are actually other shadow beings. And so when we do this drop, there will be more supply available other than these 10, probably on order of a few hundred. So yeah, we'll have more details to reveal about that drop as we go. I think that the key thing, if you want to kind of know the details, would be join our Discord, follow the Shadow Hats, follow Forgotten Runes. But yeah, we will be kind of putting this drop together and have more information to you about how to kind of like get involved as we go.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's just fun that we haven't talked about Black Hats the entire 2 years, but they've been there all along, like a proper shadow group is. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited that the shadow is finally seeing the light. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's not much more to say about that. Bear, do you have any input, or do you just want to talk about whoopee cushions again?
Yeah, let's get back to the faux farts. No. Good callback. Good callback. No. I think the only thing I would want to put a button on is, our intentions behind doing this. I think good. You talked about like why you wanted to do it. It was sort of this single moment in time where you could sort of be at the very tip of the spear. But I also think like I want to make sure that people understand like there's always a bigger picture. This wasn't like something we concocted to like reverse engineer into ordinals to like do the next thing. Like I know I love innovation. I want people to try new things all the time. But I have like this like distaste for people who kind of just sort of move from one thing to the other without ever like planting. They just go to the next new cool thing. And I think something, and the people who are in the cult, I think they already know this. But for a lot of the people who are joining for the first time, this show, it's we're very purposeful in everything that we do. This isn't just sort of like just trying it out, and there's a reason behind it. There's story behind it. The shadow hats, as Elf said, have been around since day one. And so I think when we try to innovate, we want to make sure that it feels organic. So I
That's a
don't know.
really
I mean,
that's a really
yeah.
important point, which is that the characters of the Shadow Hats and any other characters that we drop on Ordinals are still fully part of the Forgotten Runes ecosystem, right? And so, that doesn't mean that the like sort of the benefits as they play out with regards to like owning a wizard or all those things, we'll discuss more in detail as we get closer. I think of like there are very few shadow hats, and so you might think of owning a shadow hat as on scale with something like owning a beast, for example. I think that when we talk about the other shadow beings that may exist, and we do a drop there, those well, I don't want to give away too much there, but this idea that we're kind of going to have tokens on Bitcoin, they need to be like, well, they're part of the fold, right? Just because those characters are on Bitcoin doesn't mean that they aren't part of Forgotten Runes. And we'll figure out how we work on, like, for example, the Book of Lore, verifying ownership on Bitcoin. I think there's technical issues that like we have to figure out. But all that to say, like, if you own a shadow hat, by ideal, if not by implementation on day one, you should be able to enter lore about that shadow hat in the Book of Lore. I think another thing that I want people to know, particularly the cult, is that the supply for ordinal collections in general, and the supply for this one as well, is quite low, right? So it will be something on order of maybe around, don't hold me to this, but it'll probably be 300, not more than 500. And so, well, that also means that there's even with sort of these other tokens, there's quite a small supply.
Yeah, and just I want to say that the fact that they're on another chain is really sort of deliberate to the lore. I mean, these are characters who are outside the margins of society, which is why they're on. I mean, they're so outside the margins that they're on a totally different chain.
They operate on a different plane, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just one other thing I want to say is, we at Magic Machine, we think about we constantly think about ways to like expand the cult, expand our audience. And, just one of the best ways to do it is just reaching to new demographics and new groups of people. And there's a whole like group of Bitcoiners out there that I think we should welcome into the cult.
And I've said this a ton of times. I basically think that that Forgotten Runes is a very Bitcoiny project, right? It's this idea that the wizards kind of exist immutably on chain, and sort of like the pixel art, which is this sort of foundational, fundamental style. I think that I think that there's a lot of kind of like punks and Bitcoiners in the wizards, and I think a lot of Bitcoiners would feel at home there.
I think we have a few questions. Samisa.eth, hello.
What's up? .sats. Wow.
Oh, that's sorry.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me up here. I actually have a very, very important question for you. So please answer truthfully. What is it about pixels and wizards that make them look so fucking good?
Yeah, let's go. It's magic, baby.
Yeah. Oh man, I have so many different answers to this, but I'll try to give the short answer. So, we deliberately chose the pixel aesthetic because to me, and I think a lot of people agree with this, it's such a low res aesthetic that it doesn't give you a lot of information, and therefore your own imagination has to fill in all the gaps. We call them creative primitives. They're so utterly simple that you have to build sort of all of the information around them. If you start with a very high res image, then it sort of answers all the creative information for you. But if you start with a very low res image, you have to do all of that creation yourself. I would say that's maybe the short answer.
Yeah, and I think that like we associate pixel art with kind of this like intermediate age of computing, but the fact of the matter is that pixel art is like very lindy. It's been around for thousands of years, right? You can look at sort of visual languages with beadwork. You can look at ancient Roman mosaic tiles. You can look at stained glass, and so these are all kind of like pixel art forms that have been around for thousands and thousands of years.
And I mean, technically, even like high res CG art, if you reduce it to its most basic elements, it's pixels.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you for for answering that. Yeah, I mean, look, you see my PFP, right?
Yeah, love it.
Oh, we see it. It's not pixel though.
Kind of.
It is.
Is it pixel?
It's high res pixel.
Taking a closer look. Oh, look at that.
128 times 128.
There you go.
Oh yeah, nice. Yep, love it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm looking at yours. I just found you, to be honest. Like, I kind of feel like I'm heavily invested in like ordinals now, and like this is like all my free time I'm spending in this space and all these amazing things that happen on Bitcoin. And somebody just mentioned, oh, look at this. This is a sub 1K collection, blah, blah, blah. Shadow something. No, of course, like a degenerate, let me have a look at this. What is this? And then I just stumbled into this place. And I feel like somebody that never watched or have read a lot of the Rings trilogy, and it's just gets just thrown into the second movie with no context at all, and I hear all of these amazing things and concepts and names and shadow this and goblins and this and this and that, and I have no clue what's going on, but I'm definitely very, very much intrigued, especially because it sounds like you have a whole ecosystem. I love lore. Like I'm a nerd. I'm a nerdy guy when it comes to lore, right? And like you sound like you have a lot of that.
Yeah, welcome. Well, you have a wizard PFP and you like lore. I'm pretty sure you're in the exact right place on the internet right now. And also, if people didn't know, I mean, just to do a quick run through, and actually, Dota, I don't know how to pin a tweet, which is ridiculous. But maybe if you could pin the link to the deck, or at least to your thread that sort of walks through the project, because there are a lot of new people that are coming in every week, and we should probably be better at sort of reciting. But
I'm posting the trailer. If you haven't watched the trailer, that's a great way to get oriented. And then I will post a thread by me that kind of goes over the highlights of the project. So yeah, check it out. Join the Discord.
Yeah, and the idea really is we're telling these stories together. We're putting them on chain, connected to the characters. Everybody's contributing. We're using AI, which is a new thing. We've been around since early or mid 2021, but we're using AI to synthesize all those stories. We take these stories, we put them into a comic book series. It's getting published, and will be international publishing through Simon Schuster, 10 issues. Deadpool artist named Riley Brown's doing that. We have the career of John Wick, who is writing our animated television series. We have a couple video games. So yeah, there's a lot to dive into. It can be a lot, but the Discord is a great place to help to get some easy answers.
And you're on Bitcoin, right?
The core collection is on Ethereum. So the Forgotten Runes Wizards, so like our PFPs, they're all on ETH. But the Shadow Hats are ordinals inscribed in the first 1K. So they're all like around 960, give or take.
So when you say like the wizards are on chain, what do you mean by that then?
Yeah, so the wizards, the images and the traits required to like recreate the wizards collection, they're actually stored within, they're stored on Ethereum within the call data. And so there is an NFT that the Decoder Crystal NFT, which actually contains the code required to decode and sort of like recreate the Wizards collection. Meaning, for convenience, we have sort of, if you look at our contract, they're pointing to IPFS. But if it was ever necessary, you could actually recreate our entire collection basically from fully on-chain data. So that's what we mean by on-chain.
Ooh, okay. That sounds very interesting. I guess it's fair to say they're on-chain then, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. As opposed to just storing an image on IPFS and having a contract that points to it. These are fully on chain.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're curious, we've got a blog post that kind of goes through the details, and if you're good at the command line, there's scripts that you can run to recreate it and verify it yourself.
Do you have thanks for all the info. I'll definitely check it out. Do you have any plans on kind of like, I mean, you already built like this whole ecosystem on ETH, right? So I'm not going to expect that you are coming over to Bitcoin but do you think about maybe in the future as the space grows that there will be more opportunity to maybe collaborate with the Bitcoin community? I mean,
absolutely.
I think,
yeah. So the Shadow Hats are ordinals, right? So the Shadow Hats are ordinals, and then one of the things that we've been teasing at, is this idea of a kind of, let's call it, associated ordinals collection with the Shadow Hats that will be a supply around between 300 to 500, and that'll all be on Bitcoin.
I mean, it's getting more and more expensive to inscribe JPEGs. But I mean, with recursive inscriptions now, you will pay a fraction for that. So you could easily do that, and you have pixel art, which is great as well. Yeah, very cool, man. Very cool.
Cool.
I just brought up I am Pete.
Yes,
Leo.
it's I am Peter Parker actually.
What's up, Peter Parker?
Hey.
Also, Leo was up here. Leo was up here first. I don't know if you want to say anything.
Oh, sorry.
Feel free. Yeah. No, you're fine.
Good.
Just want to make sure everybody's got their chance. Yeah. Hello.
Thanks, guys. Hey. Hope you're all doing well. I just have a very short question to you. I heard you talking about the Book of Law or something, and I missed it. And I just wanted to ask if you can repeat what you said about it.
Sure. Yeah. So the Book of Lore is this sort of compendium of all of the stories of the wizard tokens. Okay, so let me roll back for a second, which is the point of the project is for us to create this collaborative legendarium, right? A world where we're creating this sort of IP that's on the scale of Lord of the Rings, but where it's kind of owned, where the IP is owned by the creatives who help create it, right? Rather than all that value just going to, J.K. Rowling's estate, for example. And so one of the main ways that we collect the lore, the stories about the characters in our collections, is through this app, I guess you could say, called the Book of Lore. So the Book of Lore is a few parts. The Book of Lore is a website that we host where you can come and it verifies that you own the token, and then you can edit your story, upload pictures, all of those things. And then you have the ability to basically inscribe it on chain, which stores a pointer to like where the file is in IPFS, if you care about those details. But the idea basically is that you're able to persist these stories via a protocol that is kind of owned by the holders. And so then we use that Book of Lore, those stories. So we've used that for airdrop qualifications to kind of like, seed the pot initially. And then we use it for our television show, which we're working on. We use it for the comic book that we're working on. And really, like when we need to draw inspiration about what the world is, we look at the Book of Lore first. One of the things that Bearstein mentioned earlier is we've also created what we're calling the Loracle, which is basically an AI that reads the entire Book of Lore and can understand it and answer questions about it. So you can use the Loracle to sort of find things that you might not otherwise, or to give you suggestions on sort of plot lines or incentives. So that's the Book of Lore. The Book of Lore is basically this like pivotal piece of storytelling for our project.
Thank you. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I am Peter. Hello.
Hello. What's good? What's good, guys?
Hey.
Hey.
Everything's good.
It's all good.
Okay, I just want to ask like one thing in particular. Do we have any idea of how how or what's the supply for the shadow hats? Yeah, I just want to include that in
So
my new next video that I'm gonna talk about you guys on my YouTube channel. I'm actually running a Hispanic Alpha YouTube channel.
That's awesome,
Cool.
man. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So the shadow hats themselves, the ordinals that were inscribed under 1,000, right? So they're around like the 960 rank of ordinals. There's only 10 of those, and we'll be selling a portion of those when we do this kind of like upcoming mint. We'll call it. And that said, that's not quite enough for kind of the attention that that's not quite enough for the telling the whole story, and so there's going to be another collection that's associated with the shadow hats that the supply is not finalized yet, but it's going to be somewhere between 300 to 500.
Okay, well, perfect. And I don't know who said it. I don't know if it was you, Dota, or Bear, that you guys were using AI for what and on what. Actually,
So the book of lore that was mentioned earlier, which is where all of our holders create the stories around the characters that they own, we use approximately 5,000 pages of that lore to train an AI model. We call it the large lore machine. And so now we have this sort of oracle, or loracle as we call it, and it's basically like our own version of Chat GPT. You can ask it questions about the lore of our universe. Yeah, so yeah, it's a really vital part of our project. We've got a whole AI trained on everything that our community has created. It's freaking amazing.
It's quite advanced.
It's like the Copilot thing that Polygon is working on.
That I don't know about. Do you know about that, Dota?
I don't know.
It's like the same thing.
Probably.
They train an AI so you can like ask anything about Polygon, contracts in Polygon.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yep.
I think the biggest differentiator with something like that is because there's a lot of those coming out for different things. Is that the input and the information that the LLM was trained on was created by the community itself. And so I think that's the difference, right? So when you look at the Book of Lore, there's like 4,000 or 5,000 stories in there. Dota used those stories alongside scripts from the comic book and everything from our Wikipedia, and sort of all the creation from the community fed it into. So that's like it's this collective consciousness. This LLM is like the synthesis, of all of that information, and you can pull from it what you want.
Okay, I see. Well, that was it for me. I mean, I'm sure more people have more questions, so I'm gonna go to the listener part now. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Midas, hello.
Hey, Midas.
Yo, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Guys, how you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
Dope space so far. A lot of interesting things. But I want to talk about like within ordinals, right? There's been like a lot of like different matters. Like early on in February, there was like a huge focus on like early inscription numbers, and a lot of people were focused on like acquiring inscriptions that were like sub 10K. And then this time around, it seems that like a lot of high quality projects are kind of infusing kind of scarcity and rarity within like ordinal theory with like purpose and meaning. And you guys talked a lot about like how like a lot of the things that you guys do is like very purposeful and there's a lot of meaning behind it. And obviously, the 10 shadow hats are like sub 1,000 inscriptions. So it seems like there's like an infusion between the two. Do you guys think that that's where the space is heading towards in terms of like obviously the like a lot of people who were focused on ordinals early on and were able to get like inscribe on the early wave, and now infusing that with like a lot of lore and meaning and purpose behind kind of what they're doing, you know, with their story, and also like, you know, the meaning behind Bitcoin and what it stands for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, you know, Forgotten Runes, as I've said for years, is it's a reflection of the real world. It's a reflection of our culture. It's a reflection of our history and just like our sort of mythological history worldwide. And you know, our shadow hats and our old ordinals are no different from that. You know, it was carefully crafted with lore and story and purpose in mind.
Right. And I think that that's like, how to say this? One of the things that's really important for us is that the story makes sense, that the art makes sense, that it's not just about sort of, you know, some arbitrary metric. And that's maybe been our kind of mode of operation since the beginning, possibly to a fault, right? So one of the things that, like, even our core collection is what's important about it is more about the story than having this kind of clearly defined rarity. And you know, maybe proof to the point, which is one of the things that I noticed in February during the early inscriptions was that there was a lot of garbage. There was a lot of art too, and I think that's really valuable, but there was also quite a lot of garbage. And I sort of I really I didn't inscribe garbage in because I wanted it to be good, and I also didn't buy garbage because I wanted it to be good, just because it was sort of low inscription numbers, and that actually, like, in terms of like pocketbook or like investment advice, that was actually a terrible choice, right? There were plenty of derivative projects, low effort, you know, derivative projects within the first 10,000 ordinals that, like, I just sort of passed over because they didn't do it for me, and I was like, oh, no one's going to want like a, you know, well, now I don't want to say a particular project, but I don't want to clone X, not clone X, but like a clone of X project. And well, it turns out actually people really did care a lot about those early inscriptions, and we could have made a lot of money. But I think that that's really besides the point, because it's really about like making art that you love and like creating things that you love and collecting things that you love. And so I think my view of basically the overall ordinal market is really that, like, the first, you know, 1K, 10K are like clearly grails in my mind, right? When you think about like an Ethereum collection, having 10,000 punks, for example. The first 10,000 feels like an important milestone. And then I think after that, it really starts to matter a lot less for me. You know, in the 100Ks, okay, fine, still seems kind of early overall. But like, you know, I would say somewhere around like 50K, I just can't care anymore about what order you inscribed in. It's really more about what is the art? Who's the team? Who made it? What's the story behind it? Like, I think you're basically going to see this play out with Little Peepos. So the Inscribed Pepe's project is, in my opinion, like probably the bluest chip of the kind of original ordinals projects. We'll call it that. Like for having completely original art, I would say it's like the blue chip of the space. And they're about to do a drop like for Little Peepos, and I don't think that like anyone really cares that they're going to be inscribed on, like, you know, 1.2 million or whatever. They're going to be in quite high demand. Yes, they're inscribing them on uncommon sats, but still, like, I just think that they're a great project, and so people will love it and not really care about the inscription number. You just can't, like, it has to stand on its own 2 feet after that.
No, that makes
Um,
no sure.
uh,
Go ahead.
Thanks, Midas. Crypto Vias, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. Most people call me
Yeah.
Virus. Yeah, I did have a question, but I just wanted to say that I resonate with what Dota says with regards to the ordinal projects that came out and they were, well, quote unquote, garbage. And one thing that caught my eye about your project is, and listening to this space as well, is how much attention to detail you've paid to story and lore, and it seems quite purposeful. So the question I wanted to ask was, because I'm new to Forgotten Runes project and community and everything like that, I just wanted you to, if you could, describe what your community is like. What could somebody like myself expect to experience by being a part of your community, if
Yeah.
that's at all possible?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So
Oh,
Uh,
we
the way
all
I
have an answer. I love it.
yeah. Yeah.
the, the way I like to describe it, the short like log line is open source Middle Earth. Um, and so yeah, if you look at Middle Earth, it was all created by like one lone genius, J.R.R. Tolkien, and then that whole narrative was expanded into a vast like media franchise with films and games and toys and just all kinds of things. Okay, and so we are set to disrupt that model. Instead of having one person create it all, we have an entire community who's creating with us. And so they share in the creation, they share in the ownership, they share financially, they share legally, they share in every other way you can imagine. And so when you come into our Discord and when you follow us on Twitter and when you interact with our community, you will find a big, beautiful network of creators, artists, writers, poets, musicians, um, and frankly, very, very friendly people. And the one thing that I want to make clear is that if you don't consider yourself a writer or an artist or a musician, you can still create. Everybody has the capacity to create. All you have to do is speak your own truth, and you can create amazing things in your own way.
Let's bring Tad up here. He in the Discord said that he's itching to come up and give an answer to this question, and I feel like probably nobody better.
Tad is one of our favorite creators. Tad, what's up?
Hey, can you guys hear me? I just connected through.
You sound
Yep.
beautiful.
Hey,
You sound beautiful.
I feel beautiful today. Thank you, Bear. So I just wanted to hop up as a community member and not team member and answer the question that was just asked, because I think it's an excellent starting point for trying to look at how to get into the cult and what it is. And I'd like to just give you the perspective of someone who was here from the beginning. So Forgotten Runes was my first NFT project that I minted. Jumped into this back in June of 2 years ago now, almost exactly 2 years. Was not a pixel artist, was not a creative. I worked in a very regimented, high stress technical role that I didn't get to use creativity for years and years. And I jumped in and found a community that was building and growing and so supportive of one another. That I started to want to make some little things, to make some people laugh, to, just share something with people. And it really, really tapped into a creative energy that I had let lay dormant for the majority of my adult life. So to be able to get in to something like this with a community that's so engaging and honestly, just in whatever ways you feel empowered to create, you have the opportunity to do that, whether it's creating lore and stories around your characters. If you want to create still images, pixel art, animations, everything is free. Everything is open and available to you. Really, the sky is the limit. You can do friggin' anything that you want. And the support that I've seen, not just for myself, but the entire community. We have an entire stable, shout out Black Sands, of amazing artists. And so many of us got our start because of this project. I know a lot of people that I've connected with personally who feel very similar to me, that never really expressed their creative talents, didn't have the time in their daily life. And this has given us like a tremendous opportunity to just, tap into that kind of potential that everyone has in themselves to create, to build, to grow. And being a part of this over the last 2 years has been, formative in the person that I am now and the community that I carry and that I interact with. So not to go on too long, I could rave about all these amazing people for hours, but it's truly a very, very special project. It's filled with really intelligent, amazing people, and they're all very helpful and look out for each other. So we're excited to have so many new people that are hearing about the project for the first time. Our Discord is the best place to get information. There's always loads of people in there. Everybody's happy to answer questions. There's no question we haven't answered a dozen times already. We'll gladly do it again. So come see us.
I think my heart is on the floor melted. I love you, Tad.
You're the best. I love you.
That was great, Tad. Yeah, Tad's one of the best and has been with us for a very long time. CryptoVS, did you have another question?
No, not a question. I just wanted to say that by listening through to the spaces, I could sense the passion and the intelligence from like the team, and hearing Tad come up and speak with such passion, like real heartfelt passion, and the fact that he's been a part of the project for like 2 years since he minted, and he's still there and he still sounds enthusiastic, is a really encouraging sign. So yeah, I'm definitely going to join the Discord and hop in and say hello and learn some more. And I'll be interested to hear what the rest of the team, how the rest of the team answer the question, if you've got time, that is, because I know you said that people are excited about it. So
Yeah.
We got another one.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk more about it. I don't know if anybody else in the community wants to come up. I mean, I think I can talk about us all day. So, but yeah, if nobody else wants to come up, I think one of the things that I really appreciate
Bridge is up here. Maybe Bridge has a
I got to follow Tad. Oh man, yeah. I just wanted to bring two things up as a community member. First, my purple hat, because I welcome the presence of the shadow hats, but I do not fear them because I know who the most powerful wizards are. And then second, this potion is for Elf, and I wanted to just hand it over to you while you're traveling, and it's an antidote in case you need it. And that's all I wanted to say. And just
thanks,
here
Bridge.
you go. If you cross too close to the other side while you're at your conference, this will bring you back. Yeah, no, Tad, God, man, that was just so great. And hearing also like a bunch of fresh voices like asking about the cult just gets me so amped. So that's all I wanted to say. Love you guys.
Love you.
One of the things I think is so great about the cult is just this idea that everyone is like very supportive. I think that like you see this across a lot of the best artist communities, which is instead it's like the exact opposite of someone who's sort of like an art critic where they're like over analyzing every detail, and rather everyone is encouraging of everyone else, regardless of whatever they share, regardless of your skill level, right? And part of it is like economic incentives, because it's like when we all create this world together, we all benefit. But I think it's quite a lot more than that. It's almost this. It's like the personality type of the people in the cult are this sort of like open, encouraging, creative, and everyone remembers what it's like to be a beginner and to put your effort into something. And so that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the cult is we have so many great artists here, and everyone is like completely excited whenever they share any sort of art.
Yeah, just to give my version of this, and I think it all sort of flows together. Is I often talk about there's two groups of people, if you want to generalize in Web3 and NFTs, and I would say a vast majority are here for primarily financial gain, and I think that's fine. I think that's an important part of the ecosystem for people to be trading and buying and all that. But I think what's interesting about us is we super over index in that like 5 to 10% of people in Web3 NFTs that I think are here because they believe in the technology. They are looking for like-minded people. I think most of them are builders. Like when I get on a phone call or a Zoom or a meeting, whatever, with another project or another company that's building an amazing tool, like in Web3, I would say like 65 to 70% of the time, someone has a wizard on the other end of the call, and to me, that's just a badge of honor because if you're able to attract people who are actually building and innovating and here for the right reasons, I think it just creates this longevity and health to the base of the people. So that's just what I wanted to add.
Bear?
can I just add something? Because
Please.
I'm not, I'm actually part of a similar, like a builder kind of community. It's called Oceans of Terra, and just from hearing you, I was like, this is the type of community we want to be creating. It's just on our end, it's been a long journey, but we have like a smaller amount of people that has been going with us for years now. Like I think we started 2021, but we weren't able to like expand it like you did. And actually, we I wanted to like connect on that just so we can learn from what you've experienced, and because I was like, this is really what we wanted from the start, like like-minded people. We have the we create our own story. We create like a movement, right? And that's what I'm seeing here. And that's what got me so excited that I wanted to like start speaking, even though I'm like shy as fuck, right?
Yeah. Well, Dota, I know you're going to have a more eloquent answer than me, but what I will say really quickly is I think there was a judo move that was made at the very beginning of this project, and that is really around the Book of Lore, in conjunction with rewarding people when things were up and to the right, and money was just sort of coming out of everybody's orifice, not just in general. I think the idea of rewarding the people who wrote stories in the Book of Lore, I think was like one of the most genius judo moves of all time. We got so much flack and negativity because so many people were like, "Oh, I don't have time to write stories about my wizard. I don't have time to be creative." And maybe in the short term it hurt us, but in the long term, it's why we're sitting here with I don't know 150 people in a space years later. I think it really so I guess I'm kind of rambling, but what I would say is the most important thing that I think we did was double down on the people who were in our project for the reasons that we had alignment with.
Yeah, I think it was like I don't know what it was, but here are some ideas. I think that like it's a part of it was like trying to create a space that we just wanted to be a part of. I think that like there have been some choices that I've made along the way that probably weren't like that didn't cause us to like rocket like some of the other projects did. I think you bring up a good point, which was sort of like right out of the gate, our first major airdrop for the Sacred Flames only went to people who like super early holders, and then people who wrote in the Book of Lore. And we took a lot of heat for that. There was a bunch of whales who kind of like turned their back on us because they're like, look, I just don't have time in this world of like I can get free money from anywhere. I don't have time to like actually invest in any particular project. And so what that did really right out of the gate was create this sort of like self-selection for people who like, let's say had the love of the game, right? They like that they actually do see this vision of like, well, it's fun to create art. It's fun to have a community to create art. And I think one of the interesting things about Forgotten Runes is that it's not just an art project, right? We're not just creating a Creative Commons like free asset pack. It is tied to this like commercial motivation, and I think that's an important part. Like, which is that like when you when you are let's say an adult who's not an artist as a career, it's hard for you to justify like spending time to do things creatively because you well, like you have a family and a mortgage and you have like responsibilities, right? And so I think that like when you have kind of this promise that you own a commercial right in your character, so that way the things that you create could actually become sort of self-sustaining. I think that's an important part. You can sort of justify it to yourself, or really in reality, you can make it a sustainable enterprise to create this kind of art. And so there's never really been a way to do that before. And so that's part of it. I think the other part of it is really just we try to keep the Discord. Discord is like one of the hardest things to manage. I think that like a DGen Discord just goes south very, very quickly. Whatever you've been in Discord, you know what it's like. And so one of the things that we committed to in the beginning was trying to create these like sort of eternal big family Christmas party vibes in the Discord, which is like, we've done good sometimes and worse other times. But I think that like you attract you attract a certain type of person who like wants to be creative, who wants to be in an encouraging environment, who wants to have friends. And well, I think a lot of it is just like grinding every day. I don't think there's any shortcut really.
That's true. And I think the Discord part, we are able to get that to happen. Already have like collected a bunch of people who's not really like just in it for the money. They're actually just part of the community now.
Right.
And that's the one thing that we can be proud of. But like we want to also get into the expansion. So that's what I'm hearing all the things that you're saying, and then I'm like having plans all over my head. Like, well, okay, we can do this, we can do that. So sometime soon, maybe I'll get the founder on our end and like throw him at you guys, and we'll see what happens. Like, because I want to see that, because he also has this thing. He has the one who has like great vision and like persistence, because we were like we failed to launch like a few times when Ed was like in a bull run. So we were like, are we still gonna do this? And like, no, yeah, just keep doing it, even though we weren't even making money or anything like that. We're like, let's just keep doing it. I want to do this. We want to have this thing going on. So I think we found like the right place to I don't know, like learn. So you'll expect something from us.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I just want to give some shout outs to some of the builders and creators in our community. And of course, I am talking about week 22 of the Cult Content Chronicle, lovingly curated by the illustrious Tanya Del Rio.
You always say illustrious.
Yeah.
Well,
What
that's
does
just
that word mean?
it means revered,
You don't
prominent.
even know. You're making it up.
Bear, I think you don't know, and that's why you're asking.
I'm not going to pretend I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. I barely graduated high school. Jeez.
Well, I just explained it.
Okay, yeah, well known, respected, admired for past achievements, eminent,
Yeah.
distinguished, acclaimed, noteworthy.
Yeah,
And that's Tanya.
pretty much
Wait,
what I just said.
That's me. That's me too. That's great. I'm
You and
illustrious.
Tanya.
Yeah.
We're all illustrious. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So if you want to read along with the Cult Content Chronicle, go to Tanya's Twitter. She does this every week, where she highlights notable contributions from the community. And so, let's go through them. Number one, Castamere, part of the infamous Moron Global meme crew. Just a really fun illustration of Little Nas and Dota.
I love it so much.
It's so good. It's
Little
so good.
Nas and Dota are totally friends.
And I'll tell you something I've realized is that the Nosferatu character, a character who is sort of in the public domain, not sort of, but just is. There is no other studio or group that is owning Nosferatu like Moron Global is. So I would say Moron Global is sort of the premier owner of Nosferatu at this point in time, which is quite an achievement. Next, we have Drundin. Says, inspired by Zero X Legatus, I created a bowling game. Wow, this is actually a bowling game. I didn't even click on it yet, but apparently it's a wizard bowling game, and it looks like they're bowling with a crystal ball. That sounds fun. Next piece, a good friend of mine on Twitter, Famiki, did a really fun illustration of my goat wizard. Just a really beautiful piece.
It's really good.
Yep. And then the brand new sort of animation studio by Oz and Ian, the Archer Anima Studio, is continuing to drop awesome work. We just have a big collection of really beautiful pixel art illustrations. And then Archer Anima also dropped sort of, I guess, like a progress shot of just some of the film that they're working on. Just really beautiful stuff coming out of them. Next is, you know what? I think this might be one of my favorite pieces from this week's Cult Chronicle. Nard with everyone's favorite familiar Soda, the Samoyed. Basically, a nice pixel animation of Soda walking. It's just so well done, Nard. You actually like obeyed the proper resolution of the Forgotten Runes NFTs. So yeah, I mean it's perfect, man. Well done. Next piece is another piece by Oz. It looks like Oz is doing a work for the Cabinet of Curiosities. It's a work in progress.
Oh, I just realized if you're new to Wizard Wednesday, these are all up in the pinned tweets, right? So we're sharing the images. I realize it can be hard if you're listening in. Look at the pinned tweets. Go ahead.
Yep. Next piece from Daniela Illustra is well, actually, it was a gift from our favorite
Chemical
rug
Imbalance.
maker, Chemical Imbalance. You know, Chemical Imbalance, I think, is one of this really good examples of someone who, like, you know, he's not drawing, he's not like making music, he's not necessarily writing like really sophisticated prose, but he found his voice in rug making, and it's turned out to be some of the most beautiful art across the entire cult that we've seen. These just amazing rugs.
I love it. And one of the things I noticed is that that they do a great job at picking out good yarn, and like every rug that I see is different colors of yarn. Whenever we try to commission rug makers to make our pixel art rugs, they always complain about finding the colors. So yeah, Chemical Imbalance, I would like to see a picture of your yarn collection because I imagine you have quite a lot left over.
Yep. And then Ernest T, and another one of my favorite illustrators we have in the cult. I think we saw a progress of this character last week, and it looks like it's finished now. Archimagus Remus of the Palms. Just a beautiful interpretation of the Brain Drain Wizard and that body. Yeah, I love Ernest T's work.
What stood out to me about that one was just how young he looked. I always think about that wizard as somewhat old, and this is like, maybe a 20-year-old.
Yeah, so, yeah, young and fit, and with a full head of hair, unlike the original wizard of this head. Then Hin Boyd shared just sort of a throwback to some of the posters that were made. Yeah, you know what? I remembered we had this like sort of poster contest for the Runiverse party in NFT NYC.
Didn't PVA win that?
No, I think Tanya won that actually.
Oh, yep. Tanya, the illustrious Tanya.
Yeah, and no, it was impossible to judge a winner. Like this is why I kind of hate art contests because art is so subjective. But I think the reason we chose Tanya is because it really just sort of embodied the spirit of what the party was gonna be like, and it's fun, and it's just got so many different wizards in one scene, and that's what the party turned out to be like. Another piece I'm seeing in the Chronicle is Mage Wild just posted an image of the infamous fanny pack by Moron Capital with Nosferatu, and it says, "What's in it?" I don't know if we know what's in it, but Bear, do you remember at NFT NYC when I was like wearing one of those fanny packs and we were talking to some VC guy, I can't remember, and like I think that one of the biggest reasons we won him over is because he was just impressed by the fanny pack.
He couldn't stop talking about the fanny pack.
I know.
Come for the cream, stay for the. Wait, is it stay for the meme? Come for the meme, stay for the cream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's. I think that. Yeah, that. And you didn't take that fanny pack off the entire goddamn week. Every day I'd see you. We'd like meet up for coffee in the morning. There it is, and it looked really good. Yeah, it's a great. It's a great fanny pack.
You can pull off a pink fanny pack. I don't think I could.
Yeah, it's so good. And then Ian shared a piece of lore from the Loracle. And it was I think he asked the Loracle to like create a game about the Shadow Forest or something.
The Loracle needs some love. I was using the Loracle today, and I have some changes I want to make. I think we need to work on giving it more memory. I think we need to work on helping it iterate with us. We'll push out some changes to the Loracle, I think.
Yep. It turns out AI is a complex science that is ever evolving, and so the Loracle will too. And then our very own Magus Wazir, the one who rings, who's been, speaking of AI, who's been really playing a lot with AI art generation, just turning out some really badass pieces of his character using Stable Fusion. And so this latest one is just awesome. And then, of course, speaking of awesome AI art development, Magus Devon of the Quantum Downs, who has also trained the AI on his character, the iconic Magus Devon of the Quantum Downs. Really nice piece. And then one of our favorite meme queens, Cosmic Birds, has basically put her hyena in the God, I'm blanking on the name.
Totoro.
Totoro, yes, obviously. The Totoro tree. Man, which, by the way, I watched that movie the other night. Totoro is such a good movie.
Amazing.
It's incredible. I watched it with my family, I don't know, 3 months ago, and just melted. And I just love saying Totoro.
Yeah, Studio Ghibli. It's just the best. And then we're already starting to get Shadow Hat, I guess, fan art or derivative art.
Oh yeah, we're going to encourage that. We are going to encourage more of that.
Yeah, and so shout out to Kevin Sun, who just did a really beautiful animation. And what's great is they annotated it with something that I was talking about earlier in Wizard Wednesday, which is light is needed to make the unknown clearer, and that's what they did with this animation. So yeah, please, continue making more Shadow Hat art. We love it. And then finally, speaking of art and animations, De La Soul made a really fun GIF of his Dream Master. And I believe that's it.
That's it. Just that.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite tweet every single week, this is my third week, is retweeting the illustrious Tanya Del Rio's thread and just saying every damn week. That's my favorite tweet every single week.
Yeah. But Bear, what does illustrious mean?
I have no idea, but whatever it means, I am definitely that.
Okay. Okay, before we go, something occurred to me, and I have a question for Dota. We were talking about these shadowy figures behind the scene, and we were talking about one such legendary shadow, which is Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't know who he is. But one thing that we do know is that the color orange is often associated with Bitcoin. And another thing we know is that Dota is actually the most anonymous figure of our team. So Dota, again, I started out the top of the hour with asking you a question at point blank, and I'm going to ask you another question at point blank. Are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
I'll never tell.
By the way, you're actually wrong, Alf. He is not the most anonymous person on the team.
Who is?
You know who the most anonymous person is. And that little hooded freak down there named Magus Wazir, the one who rings, has never spoken ever.
The Dream Master himself.
Voice reveal?
It's true. It's true. We'll never know. I mean, I don't think we even know.
Oh yeah, no, I have no idea who they are. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Maybe we should stop paying them and see what happens.
The illustrious one who rings. Love you.
What a great space! What a good show today, guys.
Yeah, it was good. If you're new here, come back. We do this every week, every Wednesday, and we'll be here next Wednesday. Anything else, guys?
I'm good.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. This has been Elf, Dota, Bear Snake, Tad Major, Bridge, and the Forgotten Runes Wizards Cult, channeling out from the Quantum Downs. GN, everybody.
Bye.
Stay magic.